I'm going to introduce my speakers. We have Sunny from Osmosis, Spaydh from Neutron, Ethan from Informal Systems, and Max from Valence, Timewave, Valence, both of them. Cool, so Seb asked me to make this panel as controversial as possible. So I'm going to ask spicy questions to my guests. I'm going to start with you, Ethan, since we know each other and it's okay. I actually want to. I woke up this morning. I checked prices on CoinGecko, and Atom is number 36 right now in terms of market cap. And we know that
36.
36.
We're up.
We're up from 40 maybe, but not from 20 where it was last year, and not from 10 when it launched. So I want to ask you basically, given that Cosmos came up with appchains, fast finality, interoperability, all of that, we came with it first.
Yeah.
What went wrong?
Y'all ready for this? No. What went wrong? I mean, there's a lot of things we could say. I mean, one is, we suffered a significant organizational crisis early on, shortly after the hub launched, and that severely impacted the hub's ability to. It actually didn't have a team for a long time until the last year or two, and so I would tend to attribute a lot of causal value to just not having a team for years on end. But it's more than that, right? To some extent, I think the Cosmos culture has been very focused on the technology, the philosophy, the ideas. We've invested a lot less in marketing, business development. We have we do a lot of great things, but people don't necessarily know about them. We don't have as great a culture of writing and communicating about what we're up to clearly. So sometimes other ecosystems, they kind of they get our ideas by talking to us in person, and then maybe they do a better job of communicating them, things like that. I think the other thing potentially is sort of maybe a deeper irony is sovereignty itself, right? And in some sense, the success of the Cosmos ecosystem has come from the sovereign interoperable thesis. It allows everyone to sort of make it their own, but sovereignty is expensive, right? And it comes with this downside that this proliferation of tokens can't necessarily easily sustain itself depending on market conditions and liquidity and all of this stuff. And so arguably there could be and should be an opportunity for the ecosystem to kind of come back together around the Cosmos hub and sort of defragment and reconverge. And that might start to address some of these issues. So we can talk a bit more about the role of the hub in the future and stuff. But I guess those are some of the things maybe. Yeah,
we said we fragmented, and I think one team that fragmented is Osmosis. You guys basically.
Yeah, Sunny bailed hard.
Sunny kind of went into his own way with Dev, and you guys built Osmosis. Do you feel like the hub would have been more successful if everyone had stayed together, and you would be working on the hub right now?
Yeah, probably. I think if the team structure of AIB probably stuck together, probably would have stayed at AIB longer, and the Osmosis, we were planning on building DEX products and stuff on the Cosmos hub, so those probably would have ended up getting built.
Why do you feel like you guys chose to go your own way?
We honestly the team needed tokens to incentivize liquidity, and I think at the time Cosmos hub didn't really have a proper direction. Yeah, I think when you launch a new team, you usually need a new incentive structure, right? And I think after all the Atom that was meant for the dev teams were stuck in this defunct entity of AIB that no one had access to.
Mm-hmm. And they're still there.
You know a little bit about that. Spaydh. So you are, I think you correct me if I'm wrong, you are originally part of P2P, right? That the team that built Lido. So Lido is one of the most successful Ethereum projects. You still chose to come to Cosmos at a time where Lido was already successful, and Cosmos wasn't that successful, or at least less successful when Neutron launched. Can you explain a little bit what went into your decision to launch Neutron on Cosmos? There was already rollups in 2022. At least people were talking about rollups. Why did you guys went this way and choose Cosmos?
Yeah, first, I don't know that I agree with the statement that like Cosmos wasn't successful. I think like, obviously the Terra crash
It was less
like,
hyped, at least. Like, there was less
yeah,
liquidity,
sure.
there was less people talking about it.
Yeah, true. I think Cosmos has always had an interesting edge on both technology and so like kind of like intellectual capital and social capital. Like there's a lot of fragmentation and such, but like that is an incredible resource. And so we kind of felt like as a team that has had a lot of experience bringing product to market, more so than perhaps doing like fundamental research and such, we were kind of like a good fit for the ecosystem of like providing an avenue for a lot of these technologies being developed and pushed in the ecosystem to be taken to market, kind of, in that we could play a kind of like a different role in the ecosystem and like potentially help solving part of the challenges that the ecosystem has had with distribution, and so that was kind of like one of the appealing thing. Also, like while P2P is kind of like a very kind of like global from the perspective of the industry, like P2P is working on Ethereum, working on Cosmos, we're like in a bunch of ecosystem as a validator. Our team specifically was always kind of like historically tied to Cosmos. Like Andre implemented a randomness beacon, like our CTO implemented a randomness beacon in Tendermint in like 2018 or something. We built some of like a first like a proto version of an NFT cross-chain marketplace and like something stupid before NFTs were in the Interchain. So like, we know these technologies pretty well. And this was an occasion to like, do our part in a different way. Like I don't think, compared to, for example, like teams like Osmosis, I don't think Neutron has contributed nearly as much to the SDK that then gets distributed to the rest of the ecosystem. But what we've tried to do is sort of like bring a new sort of like mentality of like, hey, at the end of the day, distribution is not, it's not just, marketing and like talking in BD. It's also just like thinking about these things as products with an end user in mind and kind of like trying to bridge that gap, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Max, now. So you're one of the new crop of contributors, right? I think you worked on the Atom 2.0 white paper for like thousands of hours, maybe, unpaid hours. That ultimately, resulted into a no, rejected by governance. What made you, first, what made you want to work thousands of unpaid hours on a white paper, and then why you choose to stay in Cosmos after? The community said no to all of your good work.
I like this question. So my journey to Cosmos started about 2.5 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm ready to start working on something that I feel uniquely well qualified to do. I was jamming with my friend at Olympus DAO, and I thought the idea of algorithmic monetary policy was really cool. And so I started building a cosmosm implementation of that, and Zaki heard about this, and he's like, hey, Max, how would you like to build this, not as like this standalone thing, but as part of the hub? I was like, oh, wow, that'd be really cool. So he introduces me to a bunch of the core Cosmos guys. They're like, oh, this is really cool. How'd you like to add this to the Cosmos Hub white paper? I was like, oh, neat. I had no idea what I was signing myself up for. And so that Olympus DAO thing turned into the Interchain allocator. And I got super bullish about this because you have IBCs, individuals can send assets from one place, send it back, but there's a whole huge design space that this tech stack is uniquely well suited for, which is protocol-to-protocol deals. And so I got super excited about that. Together with Interchain Scheduler, it was just this power combo that gave these asymmetric advantages. Like that was a winning strategy, and I was down to get behind that and put in the hours necessary to articulate that vision. I was not involved at all in the actual politics of getting it passed. I finished the paper. Like I took some time off. There was all sorts of drama that happened. To this date, I've not read the comments for the Prop 82. I'm not going there. And when that proposal failed, I know there were a lot of bad vibes amongst a lot of people. But for me, I was super bullish because like, oh, fantastic. Like, I now have an excuse not to build this specifically for the hub, but an interchain version. Something that from the get-go will work for all chains and like be this primitive that will introduce opportunities for chains to pursue positive sum activity together and change some of this toxicity. And it was really great to see that in action where Osmosis and Neutron potentially had some competition. And instead of like going down this negative sum path, they did a bilateral POL deal, and now like it's relatively small in the scheme of things, but it's definitely a step towards a more collaborative, more conducive thing that I I would like to see happen more often.
And you never thought, okay, maybe it's better to take this idea of in-chain allocator and make it happen for the OP stack?
No, this is the best tech to make interchain happen. What you see on Twitter can be a little misleading. What I really like are the values that have led a lot of people here, which is, like, I think most people in this room will agree that sovereignty and interoperability are really great values that we can get behind. I really liked that the people in this ecosystem were doing the hard work to build all these public goods, to build all this infrastructure that only made sense if this was a very long-term endeavor. And long-term is also something that I want to be thinking. I want to have long-term relationships with the humans in my life. So long-term mattered a lot to me. And so, yeah, there's never a question in my mind that this was the right place to build it. And I would love the OP people and ETH and Solana. I think a big part about finding PMF for people building this tech stack is not just looking at ourselves as some lone island of Cosmos chains, but really looking at the entire interchain and figuring out ways for us to be of value, not just to each other, but to Bitcoin L2s, ETH L2s, Solana DAOs, all across the interchain.
Talking about looking at each other, this panel is about product market fit. Sunny, I was wondering, from your perspective, which Cosmos chain do you think have the most product market fit? And I'm not saying the best team, the best idea. I'm saying the most product market fit.
Can I say Terra?
Terra is.
Oh, come on, that's too easy.
Well, you could say that a year ago, maybe now. I don't know if they have the most product market fit.
Sure. Right now, probably DYDX.
DYDX is the app chain that you think has the most product market fit?
Yeah.
Who are the two others that you can think of the top of your head?
Does Hyperliquid count as a Cosmos chain?
Hyperliquid? I don't know. Why wouldn't they count?
They're not really the Cosmos SDK stack.
But Tendermint, right?
They're Tendermint based. I don't know if that counts.
Anything that uses any part of the Cosmos stack.
Well, also, like, how
Polygon
many
then?
nodes?
Yeah, what about Polygon?
Yeah.
BSC?
You could.
Yeah, I would say probably DYDX, Hyperliquid, Osmosis.
Same question for, basically this question is for all of you guys. Your top 3 chain in Cosmos with the most product market fit for you, Spaydh.
Actually, no, sorry. I'll remove Hyperliquid. Let's say it doesn't count. Probably Thorchain.
Thorchain.
Yeah.
For you, Spaydh. And if you can justify a little bit why you think the 3
Most product market fit, right?
the most product market fit in the mic. Ethan, if you have an answer, you can go ahead in the meantime.
I'd say, like, I don't know that I have 3. I think in the
3,
so, like,
not 30.
in the very narrow conception of like the full stack identifies with like Cosmos and whatever, I would say like Osmosis is definitely one. Like, everybody, like including me, like swaps on it very frequently. So that's one use case. I think Stargaze is also pretty high up there. And I think so. If the token is the product, I think Cosmos is actually also Cosmos Hub is also not too bad. But like there's clearly challenges there as well. So, but yeah, like for the token and staking, particularly.
I'm glad we see the Cosmos Hub in the top 3 here.
Surprise! Plot twist.
Yeah, I was probably going to say Stargaze, maybe Osmosis, Polygon seems to be. Maybe I don't know. Bearchain hasn't launched yet, but there seems to be quite a lot of bear baddies out there.
It's not about hype; it's about product market fit. Like having
so
some segments.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You can
Where
get
do
actually real usability. I mean, the thing is, I feel like there's things being used at levels that I just don't know about, and so it's probably something that's using the Cosmos stack in a way that like I'm not even aware of, and that has the most product market fit. Yeah, what that might be, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I have that much more to add. I mean, it depends on what we're also defining as the market. Like, Neutron was a great fit for what Timewave wants to build. It was a great place for Valence protocol. And yeah.
Strive.
Market is the number of users, like number of Cosmos users that benefit from that product and actually use it.
Yeah, actually, I have a question for you. How do you define product market fit?
No, I'm asking the questions here.
I mean, come on. I'll wager a definition, right? Like to me, the definition of like product market fit is like whatever the user is, right? It might be developers, it might be like actual like, degens or whatever. It's a state of like, there is a product that is so good that the users just keep coming back to it, right? And like the reason I mentioned Stargaze is like, right now there's a bunch of people who want to trade bad kids and they just come back to like check the floor and like do it and whatever, right? But there's like multiple levels, right? I think Neutron has a long way to go for me to be like, boldly claiming in front of all of you that it fully achieved product market fit or whatever, but we do see like a bunch of people who were like, maybe 6 months ago they would have asked us like, hey, give us $2 million to launch on the chain, but now they're like, okay, we're launching, what can we do together to make it cool, right? And I think that's a good sign that you're getting there, right? So yeah, that's my definition of product market fit, if that helps the conversation.
Okay, let's use a Spaydh definition, but let's change the questions. Let's ask which high-profile chain have the least product market fit in Cosmos? So I'm going to go the other way, so that Sunny has time to think.
I'm not going to name names, so if I have to choose a name, Valence, we're really new. We haven't found product market fit. We're still looking for it.
I'll give an answer, also to make everyone comfortable. At Informal, we're building cycles. And cycles is a way to clear depths across people that upload them. And I think it's a genius idea, but I think we are probably one of the projects that have the least amount of product market fit and the hardest road ahead in terms of building these networks.
Someone needs to join us to help beat Thibaut down on this one.
Well, we are hiring a good BD person, so.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are pre-product, right? Like, even if there was a market, you wouldn't be able to like.
The further, let's say, the question is the further away from PMF, and obviously being pre-product doesn't help, but in general, we have a long road ahead in order to build the network's effect.
So then I would say like the chain that I haven't yet decided to build has definitely not product market fit.
That's why I say high profile, like a chain that already have a name in the ecosystem. What do you think, Ethan?
Well, I mean, maybe to disarm a little bit so we could try to have a more honest conversation. Arguably, ICS V1, the Cosmos Hub, it had some product market fit with Neutron and Stride early on, which was really valuable, but then it kind of became clear that it wouldn't have the level of product market fit that we wanted, right? And that's, it was interesting to hear you say that Adam kind of had it, I mean, to some extent, but yeah.
I mean, when you look at like, there's the market for Adam's product is like people who want to launch chains. And like right now in the industry, there's so much saturation there. All of the RAS service providers, all of the rollup frameworks, everybody is catering to that niche now. There's tremendous competition, but like Adam at least can claim that, hey, we have 2 live consumer and we have like what, 5, 6 or something like that are in the pipeline.
Yeah, and the 2 live are actually awesome.
You said it, but I would tend to agree.
Usable, they actually have some product market fit, yeah.
Slashing is a thing. Yeah.
Okay, if I had to add something, maybe CW20 tokens. Yeah, dealing with the technical debt from that mess. Yeah, definitely no.
Well, you guys are cheating. I want actual names, not your product also, because that sounds like you're cheating. So
one of my favorite projects in the space is Anoma. Love the team, love what they're doing. They had a conference here a week ago. But I'm not sure anyone really understands. I think Anoma is like seeing the future like far out, and they've got the right vision, and they're going there. I have no idea if they have any product market fit or if they're anywhere close to that. I hope they do, but yeah.
One of Informal's biggest partner.
One of our biggest partners. I mean, yeah, we work very closely with them. I mean, we invested in them, like, very bullish, but it's big brain kind of stuff, So.
I mean, the more innovative you are,
the harder it is, right? So, and I think they realize that too, right? I think they're trying to like figure out how to actually adapt to like the market conditions of Ethereum, right? It seems like there's been a bit of a pivot, like, you can use this kind of like intent solving technology, specifically in the Ethereum world where the solver markets are and so on. So it's interesting to see what starts as like a big brain idea kind of narrow in on trying to find a specific product market fit and then zoom back out. So it'll be interesting to keep watching that, because if they make it work, I mean, they could change kind of everything. So yeah.
I think I'd go for so a project that I have a lot of sympathy for, that we actually like. The early ideas for Neutron looked very similar to this, but we made a different choice, and I think that informed kind of like the direction, is Dimension. So Dimension, basically, the idea is like you have a chain, and then you can use it to like spin up new rollups, and each of these rollups are kind of like your app-specific and like domain. The idea is super cool, right? Like, oh, I'll make it, one click to like launch my own rollup and whatever, right? Our thesis, when we were thinking about this, right, because for us it was a way for applications on Neutron to eventually graduate into having their own app-specific domain, kind of. And they took a different route whereby they said, like, okay, we're going to do this first, and people are going to go straight directly there. And I think that was a tough circumstance, because my thesis is that like you need to bootstrap network effects first, and then that flows back up into the layers, basically. And so I think right now it's very tough, but I do think that actually there's an in for them. I think like meme coin rollups might actually be perfect PMF for solutions like that, actually. We'll see if that plays out.
Yeah, it's crazy that we're building all this infrastructure and everyone just wants to trade memes.
I don't understand Fetch AI.
You what, sorry?
I don't understand Fetch AI. I don't understand like what it does, and so I'm not sure if anyone does, and so maybe that's like a high-profile one that I don't see.
It's pretty high on market cap rankings, right?
It's like top 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good answer. Okay, so
Is this spicy enough?
it was
Okay.
pretty good. We got some names.
What do you guys think?
I'll give you a spicy one. Sorry, I think Greg might be here. I don't know if he is. But like, as an Akash, like, advisor and everything, I think that Akash has a lot of supply of of compute. There's not a lot of demand, not a lot of usage on the demand side, which is, I guess you could say like, it hasn't found the PMF on the actual usage side yet, even though there's a lot of supply.
Do you think there's something specific that's in the way of that? There seems to be a huge demand for GPUs in the world, right?
I think it's mostly a dev tooling thing, where it's like, okay, yeah, I think, it's the same reason people pay a little bit more to like plug into Google Cloud's like GPU clusters, because it's just easier, right?
Yeah.
You're doing everything else there as well. It's just easier to connect to that than it is to like save a little bit on cost to plug to like the decentralized thing. Right. And I think it's people just don't want to. The reliability, so the people who are very cost sensitive are the people who are doing like massive jobs, right? But then they care a lot more about the reliability and want to like send it to Google or something rather than like send it to something decentralized that maybe has less of a brand name. This is just my general take, not on like Akash alone, but
it's
just
great
on
that
DPIN as on.
it's great that Adrian only just arrived.
So, but also perhaps
we were talking about you.
Very positively. Okay.
I think this is true for like DPIN in general, right? It's like, all like even like, HiveMind on Solana, right? They've been getting a lot of like mapping data, but I don't see anyone using it for anything. And like, I don't know. It's interesting just as a category, DPIN, as like, I haven't seen it get product market fit from the demand side.
Mm-hmm.
But just as a note to what you were saying, Sunny, like I think what you were saying is super interesting, because it's actually the actual proper way, in my opinion, of like thinking about these things. You were like, okay, here is the user, right? Like they have some job, whatever, they need some compute, and they care about X and Y, right? If they are cost sensitive, then they're also, they care about reliability, right? So like you built a persona of a user, and then you were like, okay, how do I match the offering to that, right? And I think like this is actually, my key takeaway is that like in Cosmos, we always go from the technologies we have access to and into, okay, what can I build with this? And never from the other way around of like, okay, what are the actual users and their actual needs, and then how can we solve it, right? And I think like that's a mindset that we need to, so like a culture basically that we need to grow and distribute in the ecosystem, because no PMF without that.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. The flip side of that is the mRNA vaccine, right? They worked on this platform that apparently there was no demand for, and they just like chewed glass to do this like technology first thing, because they were like, this is the right approach, and it's going to be necessary at some point. And then at some point, the socioeconomic condition sort of showed up, and so I think about that a lot, because it's clear that like we have been kind of technology first, and we kind of struggle with that. And it's like, what do the users? The users don't need any of this shit. But at some point, it seems like they will. But if you're always just betting on that, you know, most often you're probably just going to fail. Versus like the traditional startup route is, you know, do anything to just find product market fit first, no matter what you have to use, and then, you know, fix your tech debt and so on. So there's definitely a lot of lessons to learn from that.
Talking about fixing our tech, you mentioned ICS 1.0 as potentially one of the products that didn't have product market fit. Now the Cosmos Hub has come up with ICS 2.0, and it also has a new vision, right? And so what I would like here is that Ethan explains that vision for everyone in the audience as a project that was still mentioned once by Spaydh, but in general people associate the Hub as a product that is struggling to find PMF. So if you can explain that, and then I want to have everyone here on the panel critique that vision, because I know all of you guys are very involved with the Cosmos Hub and very in tune with what it needs.
Yeah, the vision for the Hub is to make it the best place to launch a chain, and to just simply be that. And there's a lot. That was, in a sense, the vision for Cosmos, right? To use the stack to be the best place to launch a chain. But there's a lot that goes into launching that's not just around the technology stack, but you need the operators, you need the security, you need certain services, you need access to liquidity, you need support, you need larger community, you know, integrations with other chains and so on. And you know, it's possible to provide all of those things for yourselves as an independent sovereign chain, but we're positioning the Hub to be the thing that can offer kind of all of that in an optimal way. And of course, it is a saturated market now. A lot of other, you know, projects are focused on restaking and, you know, launching chains and so on. But the Hub kind of has a unique position and a unique opportunity to work with the existing set of Cosmos chains, start to bring them back, you know, into and under the Hub's umbrella, and to be a platform for launching new chains, leveraging the Hub security. And a big part of that is this new platform we're building, decentralized auction platform called Hydro, which is designed to, you know, allow. Also, we'll be leveraging Timewave to decentralize and automate liquidity provision from community pools into different application platforms. And access to liquidity is a big issue that, you know, many chains are struggling with. I gave a whole talk on this at Modular early today called Defund the Dealers. You should check that out at some point. But you know, so Hydro is designed to help solve that problem and help, you know, make the Hub the best place to launch a chain as sort of part of that solution. Yeah.
So Sonny, you've been very critical of the Hub in the past. What do you think about that new vision?
I think if your goal is to make it as easy as to launch a chain as possible, I think what you actually need to, I do think that people prefer to have like more of a roll-up stack, where it's like, you know, here you seem to be trying to subsidize the costs as much as possible, but I feel like roll-ups have figured out how to, like, you know, provide the chain at like a lower cost, right? Because you're not paying as much for like the security, because you don't need, instead of like having economic security at all, you're just moving as more and more of the stuff into like cryptographic security and stuff. So I feel like to make the Hub be the best place to launch a chain, you need to figure out how to make it be like a place for like roll-ups to settle to, right? Like either that means turning the Cosmos SDK into more of a roll-up stack, or whatever way you figure out how to do that.
Well, I would say that roll-ups are chains too, and there is something coming in that regard to make the Hub a place to launch roll-ups and to align more closely with, you know, Celestia as a DA layer.
What do you mean subsidize? Like, we're not subsidizing anything from the Cosmos Hub side.
Well, so I'll maybe take this point. So when you're launching a new chain, you now, you know, it's not like the same consensus process, the same node runs the new chain. Like the validator has to spin up a new server, run the node there, and that means that there's like the marginal cost of every new chain is pretty high, right? Compared to a roll-up stack whereby, like, you know, maybe you still have the same infra cost, but you're running much fewer nodes, right? So as a result of this, it's going to be difficult to compete with like Conduit, who can afford to like make you pay 10K per year and call it a day, because there's so little actual infrastructure that's involved in the process, right? In the Cosmos Hub, like, it's 180 validators, right? Maybe with opt-in, you can be okay with like fewer validators and whatever, but still,
much fewer.
That infra cost is going to be higher. And I think like the problem is, it's an engineering question, but it's also a social engineering question, in the sense that like validators as a business, they kind of look not just as a, here's my infra cost and here's the profit margin that I want to make, and as long as the chain can like provides that, I'm fine. Most of the validator game today is managing kind of like opportunity cost of like which chains I'm going to focus on my work on, right? And so like the idea is that like when I go and try to be a launch partner for a chain, I'm expecting that the token, the project will do well, the token will go up, the inflation will be much more, basically. And so like, there's a bit of it's almost like an investment, except instead of putting money, you're putting your time in this, right? And so ICS will not provide this because like, there's very few, very few consumer chains in the future will be okay to like just provide the same kind of upside because that differential is part of the value add of ICS actually, right? And so like effectively you're asking validators to operate on a more sort of like service contract type of thing, whereas they tend to operate more so on a investing my time type of model for their business economics, right? And so this is not something that can't be solved, but that's almost more social engineering than technical engineering to find validators that are okay to go big on like economies of scale and like get their process of like spinning up new nodes and keeping up with their release schedule and whatever like really efficient and just accepting to make a margin on the on whatever that actually costs to run, if that makes sense. And I think that has been one of the things that we thought about less so when ICS became a thing. And that is kind of like becoming like continuing to be an area of friction in the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we mentioned a few things here. So just to clarify a few things. So Timewave, we're the devco behind Valence, which is the protocol. Hydro is going to be that auction platform that helps express the intent of the hub to deploy liquidity in a certain place, and then Valence is the protocol that will actually get that liquidity from point A to point B. In terms of this strategy, I think that this is the hub's best hope. Eigenlayer really came in and ate the shared security lunch, and so the hub needs a way to differentiate its security offering relative to Eigenlayer and Babylon.
Cook dinner.
Cook dinner. Sharing liquidity is a really good way to differentiate. If you're choosing between restaking protocols and one is giving you 10 mil in liquidity and the other one's giving you 0, it's a much easier choice for you. People will often choose their restaking provider based on what alignment they want, and what people actually want from alignment is liquidity. So giving people a way to tap directly into liquidity is very effective. And Bitcoin is not going to do this. They're not going to print more than 21 million. Ethereum is almost certainly not going to do this, but the hub has an opportunity, especially to differentiate itself also with this on-chain governance, to really lean into this liquidity deployment and make it rain Atom, which is the hub's core product.
As a maybe spicy and like comment to this?
We're actually up on time. I don't know if we can get a little bit more time. Spicy takes are low. So
yeah, so I agree with all you just said. And in fact, we've been discussing this for years. I do think though that the most NGMI thing about this entire thing is that like the strategy is 15 different like things coming together to form this very nuanced kind of like offering, and I think that's super NGMI. I think if the hub wants to win at ICS, it should probably try and like focus all of its efforts, that of all of its core teams, onto that product. And like I understand that some of these offerings are complementary and stuff, but I think clarity, focus is something that the hub has traditionally not had, and I think that is a big part of its failure to really become what it could have done. And so like my take on this is like,
the hub didn't have a team for like 5 years.
Oh,
So the
yeah.
lack of focus was the distribution of that.
Sure.
Now that it does have a team, it has one
And Focus-
thing it
It has
works
4
on,
teams.
which is
Focus
ICS,
is the best place to launch a chain, and I think we're going to conclude on that, with that.
yeah, but
that's
there's Hydro, there's let's launch a rollup as a service chain on top of it and stuff. All of these things are really cool, but like I think there should be a group of like I think the core team should be tightly correlated together and focused on one thing.
Best
so
place
that
to
they
launch a
can,
chain.
Yeah.
That's the focus.
Yeah.
The
It's
problem is there's a
high-level
lot of things involved in launching a chain.
Sure. But like, find one angle and do that better than everybody else. Like Eigenlayer is a bad example. They're doing 15 different things, but they also raised billions of dollars recently, so they can afford to.
Okay, guys. Hot take.
Not
very
spicy
hot
enough
take.
That is
anymore.
my
Thank you.
Thank you.